Hello, and welcome back to American Motherhood, a space reserved for productive conversation between liberal and conservative mothers as we explore how society shapes the American motherhood experience. My name is Bethany, and I'm a liberal mom of two living in Central Ohio, and today we are starting a new series surrounding our local government in Westerville. This November, our community will be voting on 4 open seats for Westerville City Council. I want to go to the polls well informed, and so these next few months we will get to know all of the candidates. I'm excited for today's conversation with friend, fellow parent, and candidate for Westerville City Council, Kelley Stocker. As a dedicated teacher in Westerville City Schools and a parent to a 6-year-old student in the district, Kelley is a community advocate and is deeply invested in the success and well-being of local families. She serves on the executive board of the Ohio Council for the Social Studies. She is a faculty representative for the Westerville Education Association, and she is a member of the Westerville Planning Commission. Kelley is running to preserve the best of what makes Westerville special while promoting thoughtful progress that secures a strong future for all residents. Thank you so much for being here, Kelley. Our goal today is to learn more about Westerville City Council, learn a bit about the responsibilities and expectations, and then get to know you specifically as a candidate and what you hope to achieve if you are elected. First, let's all get familiar with the structure of City Council, and here is an excerpt straight from their website. There are 7 members of Westerville City Council who represent the residents of the city, and they are the only elected officials according to the city charter. As Westerville's legislative body, City Council sets policy, establishes goals, and approves and oversees the city's annual budget. Westerville's phenomenal residential and corporate growth has been comfortably balanced within this form of government called a council manager form of government, established in 1915. City Council by charter appoints the city manager, the clerk of council, and the law director. These 3 individuals report directly to City Council. The city manager manages the day-to-day Westerville operations and reports to City Council. Also imperative to the city are our boards and commissions made up of resident volunteers and City Council appointments, and they ensure that all Westerville activities are grounded in our historic legacies and the quality of life business and residential partners seek when moving to Westerville. So one of my goals in starting this podcast was to learn more about local government and our state government. I often get sucked into the noise of our federal government. Obviously, it's very important what's happening at that level, but so much of our lives are impacted by what's going on locally. And so I'm really grateful that you are here to spend some time with us and give us some insight into Westerville City Council. So as a whole, what can you tell us about running for City Council? What is the general commitment? What is the term? What are some expectations that we should know?
So the term is 4 years, and there are 2 meetings a month. But in addition to that, you are attending a lot of events, supporting different events and organizations in the city, and you also work additionally on the budget. So um, it's technically a part-time commitment, but, if you're doing a good job, it's a lot more than that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it's a pretty big commitment, and then campaigning is, time and a half commitment. It's
Right. Tell us about that process. First of all, what motivated you to run for Westerville City Council? Did you have an aha moment that you thought, okay, I can do this, I'm ready for this, and I need to do it? And when was that, and how long have you been working on this?
I started working actively on this, I would say, around February.
Okay.
Um, I can't really pinpoint any aha moment. I teach government. I've been teaching government for about a decade now, and a lot of my friends and even some students refer to me as Leslie Nope because I'm super optimistic about government and the potential that it has to,
Mm,
help our society. And I always said I don't want to be a politician. I like studying them. I like teaching about them. I like interacting with government, but I don't want to be the government. And
mhm.
Lately there's a lot that's changing very quickly. And I guess I just always assumed that there were other people that were better suited to be politicians than me. And I just kind of started realizing if if not me, then who? And we need people to step up who can do this job. And I think that I can. I think I have the knowledge, the background information, and the motivation to do it well. And yeah, I just thought maybe this is something that I need to do if I want to see a certain future for my community.
Hmm. I love that. And I have been on a similar journey. Obviously, I am not running for city council, so I'm still far behind, but realizing that government is just the people, right? And it's a matter of who is elected and who is elevated into these roles. And unfortunately, oftentimes these local roles don't get a lot of attention, and which means they're being selected by a smaller group of people who may not um, have everyone's best interest in mind sometimes, or certainly not a majority of interest. Is there anything else that you're specifically motivated to address if you are elected to city council?
I mean, I think Westerville does a lot really well already. I mean, that's why me and my family chose to make this our home. We have small town charm and uptown. We have award-winning public services. Um, you know, we prioritize sustainability efforts. We have prioritized inclusivity in our city, and I think there's a lot that we do very well. And part of it is protecting that and making sure that we
Mhm.
stay on that path. I certainly do think that we always have room for progress. I look forward to um, prioritizing transparency and inclusivity if I am elected to city council. I also think that there's a lot of work that we can still do with housing in our city as well. And I look forward to working on that if elected.
Oh, that's wonderful. And that's unbeknownst to you, it's one of my topics I want to talk about a little bit is housing, and then also our schools, which we've otherwise been working a lot on. Um, Before I get into those specifics, I want to circle back real quick to the structure of city council. So, uh, currently we have 7 members. How many seats are open this fall?
4.
4 seats. Okay, that seems significant. How is there an election every year for city council, or is there a typical a standard calendar for those seats?
That's a really good question. I mean, when seats are up,
Yeah.
I know if somebody resigns or for some reason can't fulfill their term, then somebody will be appointed until selection comes up, um,
Okay.
and that we do not elect members every year. I believe it's a every 2-year cycle. 2025, the last one was 2023.
And then do city council members receive a salary or compensation in any form?
They receive a stipend, which I believe is around 9,000 a year, but I'm not positive.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the behind the scenes in your campaign. So I have seen you attend some events and getting out there, getting to know our community. But what else have you been working on?
So I mentioned I kind of started getting active in February, and I spent a few months building the infrastructure of my campaign. And I was learning all of that as I went. So, um, doing the designation of treasurer so that I can fundraise and spend money, uh,
Mm,
opening my bank account, figuring out what platform I was going to use so that people can donate to me. And all of that is kind of a step by step process. So that's why I started it so early because it's like you can't do one thing until you do the last thing. Um, in order to open a bank account, you have to apply for an EIN with the IRS. And it's just a lot of little stuff that you don't really think much about. So I also started building my website. getting my social media ready to launch, just all those, building a brand, figuring out what my color was going to be, what my logo was going to look like, what my little tagline was going to be. And yeah, that was sort of phase one. And now the last, I would say, 2 weeks or so, I have moved aggressively into phase two. Um, and by that, I mean, it's really consuming. Um, I'm learning very fast that the most valuable thing that you can give to your campaign is time, and um, just showing up to events, talking to people, um, letting them get to know you and ask you questions, and being visible, so that people really get to know who you are and what you're about, and then remember you 6 months from now when it's
Mm.
time to. So, um, yeah, right now it's just really it's attending events. Doing what advertising I can, with my stickers, my T-shirts, my literature, and I'm currently working on building, um, a strategy for door knocking. I'll start that sometime in the next month or so, just to talk with as many people as I can. And there's really no substitute for that, for just getting out there and
Right.
meeting people face to face, which for a lot of people and for me as well, is the most challenging part. So.
Hmm. So it seems very much like you're starting a business, right? A campaign is a business in that way. And is there a rule book though? Like, how do you know everything that you need to do and the proper steps, especially for registering and getting on the ballot?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of resources that you can seek out if you're just getting started. Um, I participated in lead training. It is an organization that helps train people how to run for office. It's focused on progressive-minded candidates. That was a pretty lengthy, I think it was about 4 months. Some sessions were in person, some were virtual, but we went through everything from campaign finance to, strategies to win numbers and, everything in between. I'm also currently doing the Chamber of Commerce uh, candidate training. It's 3 nights, and they kind of go over similar information. I was interested in getting kind of a different perspective, and that was a wonderful opportunity that the city of Westerville provides for anybody who's interested in getting into running a campaign.
That's wonderful. And I take it none of this is required though. Like literally anybody can register and run a campaign and get on the ballot.
Yeah. So you just have to meet whatever requirements that your office demands. So some of the higher offices have age requirements. Obviously, to run for city council, you have to live in the city of Westerville, and then you have to get your signatures on petition. So for city council, we need 50 signatures, but they recommend that you get about 3 times the amount needed in case somebody accidentally signs twice or they don't realize they don't live where they need to live to sign your petition. So I'm aiming for about 200 signatures. We have until August 6th to get those in, and that's when whoever gets the signatures required will be certified and then officially be on the ballot.
So you mentioned um, door knocking and how valuable it is just talking to the community. One of my questions I had for you is, as an interested party, just a member of our community, I'm curious how I can get to know our candidates better because I'm not out there at these events and not making myself available to meet these candidates. And I think that there are a lot of other people who would be interested in learning more, but just don't have the time or the resources or the ability to meet the candidates where they are. Are there any other avenues that currently exist or that you would recommend to get this information out there to our community?
Well, so that part of that is our job as candidates. We are always thinking about how can we reach the most voters. Um, I want our city to be engaged. I want to get to know our city and our voters. I love seeing, as a government teacher, high voter turnout. So part of that is our job, getting our names out there and making sure that regardless of what you participate in or don't, that you have an opportunity to get to know your candidates. One really great opportunity happens in the fall. I don't know exactly when. I think it's October. Um, and that is candidate night, and all of the um, candidates for city council will, stand up and answer questions from the community. It's not a debate, it's more of a forum style. And so here, audience submitted questions, how candidates answer those questions. So if you don't have the time or energy or whatever to attend all of the different community events that happen throughout the summer, that would be one really great event to tune into.
Mhm.
If that you can tune in virtually as well. If
Mhm.
you're
That's great. Do you have a sense of how many candidates there are running?
I believe I have counted 10.
Wow. Do you think that that is a typical amount, or do you think that there are more people interested in this year?
I do not think that is a typical amount. I mean, it certainly does happen.
Mhm,
It's not the first time it's been a crowded field, but, one, I think that there's 4 seats open. Um,
mhm,
I think, a lot of people have gotten interested in what they can do, in their own community. And maybe that's, explains why we're seeing so many people, but it is crowded, but I think it's great. Again, first and foremost, I'm a government teacher, and I love to see engagement, and I think that people should have good choices. So I think it's great that we have so many interested in helping lead the direction of our city.
mhm. And do you get to know the other candidates pretty well just by attending the same events, or are you guys pretty siloed, just focusing on your own efforts?
Um, my initial plan was just to focus on my own efforts,
Yeah.
but I am noticing, I mean, we're just sort of gearing up in this, engagement phase, where
Mhm.
it's summertime. Westerville has so many great events, and I'm seeing a lot of us at the same events. So also quite a few of us who are attending the chamber, candidate training, and so I'm getting to know some of them there as well. Um, Others I know, um, pretty well, because we are like-minded and
Mhm.
talked a lot about running um, and things like that. So some I know better than others, but I'm looking forward to getting to know all of them. I think if we're all going to be in the same space, and we're all running because we want what we think is best for Westerville. So I look forward to what others' ideas are for our community, and just getting to know them.
Mhm. Mhm. Are city council members limited to a specific number of terms? And do we have incumbents running?
We do have incumbents running. Yeah, three of the candidates are incumbents.
Okay. Switching gears and thinking about the future of Westerville and what matters most to you and the impact that you want to bring to our community. Right on your website, I see preserving our character, protecting our community, and pushing for progress. What more can you tell us about those motivations and those goals and how you want to see them come to light?
I kind of talked a little bit about this at the beginning, but there's a reason why my family chose Westerville. I've taught in the schools here for more than 10 years, and there's just so much great about this community. I think that we have the right priorities, in terms of, prioritizing sustainability and inclusivity. One of the big factors in choosing this community was access to parks and trails, the relative safety of the city, and we have since become aware of our award-winning services. One of my kids' favorite pastimes in the fall is watching the big leaf machine come and suck up all the leaves. I don't think I'm necessarily a candidate who wants to come in and slash and change things. I want to come in and preserve what is good about this city because there is so much good about it.
Mhm.
Um, I think that every, family prioritizes safety. That's a common value, regardless of what side you might be on in the greater scale of politics. And certainly, my family lives here. We want this community to be safe as well. Um, but there's always work to do. There are always things that we can work on to make better. Um, and unfortunately, we have community members whose rights and safety are being threatened in our greater communities at the state level, federal level. And so when I talk about safety, I don't just mean safety for some. I mean, I want this to be a safe community for everybody. And while I don't like to see the erasure of people that I love at the state and federal levels, I do think it creates an opportunity for our local government and our local community to kind of fill that gap. So where rights and safety may be threatened at the state or federal level, we can work to secure some of those protections at the local level.
Mm, absolutely. I never really thought about it that way. That's wonderful to hear. How do you see Westerville evolving over the next decade? And what role should or can the council play in guiding that growth?
Well, Westerville is growing. We know that. And, as our community grows, we need to think about what we want our values to continue to be in the next decade. And we also need to make sure that our community is accessible and attainable for people who already live here and people who want to live here. So I mentioned housing earlier. I think that availability, attainability of housing over the next decade, and making sure that we provide equitable attainability for housing in our community, for people who want to go to school here, for our students, for our young people who moved away and want to come back and start a family, for our aging population that would like to age in place. We know that we do not have the variability of housing stock that we need to accommodate those needs and those demands. And so I would really love to be a part of working on meeting that demand.
Absolutely. I think you feel that regardless of your socioeconomic status in Westerville, it is difficult to get here in any way. Obviously, it's more difficult for some rather than others. But right now, the market is so tight. This is a conversation we've been having separately regarding the schools specifically. So Westerville has what, 15 elementary schools, 5 middle schools, and 3 high schools. My experience is that our school system is phenomenal, and all of my personal interactions with the schools and our teachers have just been amazing, and it's something that I am new to in general, and I know that you're new to it as a parent, but obviously you've been a teacher for over a decade. Um, how would you partner with the Westerville City Schools to support our young people and our families?
That's a good question, because I've been engaging a lot with our school board, as a teacher and as a community member. And now I'm running for city council, and it's it's sometimes hard to keep all those different buckets straight. That I do think is very interesting is, sometimes we might have different roles to play, but our goals are the same. Like, we all want good schools for our kids. That's a common value. And so I have been, working at the state level, um, along with members of our board. I testified in the Senate a couple of weeks ago, um,
Mhm.
s- a parent and as a teacher. Um, and we can only do so much as a local community to raise money for our schools. Our property owners are taxed out, and we really need some relief from the state. Um, and so, one of the more interesting experiences that I had, I think it was sometime this spring, I participated in OEA, that's the Ohio Education Association's lobby day as a teacher.
Mm.
We had two members of city council from Westerville there as well, and we also had two members from our school board. And so all of us went and we had the same meetings. We met with the same lawmakers and we all sat in a room together. And, I kind of talked about my role as a teacher. We had our school board members talk and we had our city council members talk about their issues as well. And, we've been hearing a lot lately that schools are a shared responsibility. And so while I'm not running for school board, I absolutely believe that city council has a role to play in helping our schools and our students helping to provide opportunities wherever that may be, um, and lobbying at the
Mhm.
larger government entities to help out our schools.
Mhm. That's wonderful. So you're talking about bringing opportunities to so many different people, but can you tell us specifically about how you are bringing all these current events to your students into your classroom?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So one of the, I teach government, and so it's hard to keep politics out of my classroom because my
Mhm.
in part is about politics. And so we do a public policy unit each year where we learn about different types of public policy at different levels of government. And so after state testing was over this year, we did our public policy unit. The students learned about how our schools are funded, how our budget process plays out at the state level, and all of the competing interests that fight for a piece of that budget. And students were also encouraged to explore other public policy issues as well. And then we got the opportunity to go to the State House, and my students got to sit in on a committee hearing and hear about testimony on Medicaid, one of those competing interests in the budget. And they got to meet a couple of lawmakers and tour the State House. So that was a really neat opportunity. When we were back in the classroom, I talked about how we can advocate for our own interests, and students were required to create two pieces of advocacy for a public policy issue. So maybe that was emailing, a representative, or writing testimony, like the testimony that we heard at the state house, making a phone call, writing a script for a phone call that they might make, things like that. So I encourage students to actually follow through with those. That the follow through was not part of the assignment, but I encourage them to actually send their emails, make the phone calls, even submit testimony. And
Mhm.
I did have a couple of students submit written testimony, and I even had one that went and testified at the state house after the school year was over. So I was really proud of.
Yeah, that was wonderful. That was fun to watch too. Are our schools required to teach government? And at what level?
Yeah, government is a graduation requirement. I would say the majority of the standards have to do with the federal government, understanding our federal government, how it's structured, how it works. Um, but there are also standards that address state and local government as well.
That's great. So, where can we find you and sign your petition?
So I will be out at most events, Fourth Fridays, farmers markets. I will have my green shirt on. Um, I will likely have my 6-year-old in tow. His favorite thing is handing out my literature to people. And so I let him. So if a tiny child comes up and hands you a card. That's probably what it is. Um, I do have a website. I'm on Facebook, under, Kelley for Council. My Facebook has my website, LinkedIn. Um, and if you don't see me out at events, if you have questions, if you want to sign my petition and you don't know where to find me, you can email me at stalkerforcouncil@gmail.com. I'll respond to you. I'll meet you somewhere if you want to have coffee and ask me questions. I'm up for that. I also do have a calendar function on my website where I try to put the events that I'm going to be at. I'm working out some technical difficulties with that at the moment, but those out within a week or so. So hitting up the calendar on my website.
Right. I imagine that's just one hat you have to wear is IT and website support.
Oh my goodness, I have learned so much about how, like, I've created all of my own literature. I've figured out my design, and I do have a wonderful person who has been helping me, Brandy Young. I'll just give her a little shout out. She was
Yeah.
immensely helpful in helping me get my website up and running, and she's like my go-to text message whenever I'm having problems. So she did send me the step-by-step instructions for fixing my calendar problem, and I will do that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's great. That is wonderful. So we can support you by signing your petition. Or will you have volunteers helping you go door to door, or how else can we encourage our voters to learn about you and support you?
Yeah, I do have a volunteer sign up, and that's linked on my Facebook page and also can be found on my website. Um, and yeah, I need everything from people who are willing to help me knock doors, people who might be able to deliver yard signs, people who are willing to wear t-shirts if there's somebody who, goes to a lot of different events in the community. They don't have to pay for them. I'll just give them a t-shirt to wear out.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I've had about a dozen volunteer signups initially. So I'm always looking for people who are willing to work for the campaign.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Okay, before I let you go, I would my series of podcasts prior to this have been about the state budget and the funding of our public schools. And I wanted to first thank you for your testimony and for being so involved as both a parent in our school. Our kids go to the same school, and a teacher in our district. I think that it is wonderful to see you in so many different places. And I don't know how you do it all. I don't know how you go from one hat to another and one cause to another. But I can tell that our youth and our kids are obviously so important to you as well as our community. So I wanted to thank you specifically for that. What I tend to always think about next steps. And so I don't know if this is something you would have thought about because you are obviously so focused in this race and city council. But what do you think is next for you? So if you were elected and you are able to make a difference for the city, what else do you think that you'd be interested in?
Oh, I don't know. I I'm still getting used to seeing myself as a possible elected official at the local level, and I guess I haven't really let myself think beyond that. I tend to look at what's in front of me, right? And this is what's in front of me. This is the challenge. And I love teaching too. I feel so lucky that that gets to be my career. But if something, I've never been somebody to have this grand plan, and I just kind of do the thing that's in front of me that I'm excited about, that's challenging, that I want. that I think I can do. And that's just kind of naturally led to whatever's next. So, I mean, if you would have asked me even 3 years ago if I was going to run for local office or any office, I would have said no way. It's not something that I had envisioned, and through a series of things that I said yes to, um, the opportunity presented itself, and it just kind of naturally led to that. So I would have a really hard time saying what might be after this. I would
Yeah.
just see where those experiences led.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. You are focused in the present. You're focused in the here and now, and I think that's wonderful. That's what we want to see in our elected officials. So that's great. What else? What else do you want to add about your campaign or your motivations or just your hopes for Westerville and our future?
Really want Westerville to continue to be the wonderful community that it is. I would love the opportunity to have a role in protecting that and making sure that it stays a great community and helping to guide its future. Um, but at the end of the day, I just really want this community to be a place, a refuge, regardless of what is happening at any other level. We can't control everything, but we have some amount of control over uh, our own community and what we want that to look like. And
Mhm.
you had mentioned something earlier in the show about this, but I tell my students all the time, yeah, we're learning about federal government, maybe we're learning about state government, but if you really want to look at where you can make a big difference, look at your local government, look at your school board, your schools, your local government, your libraries. Those are the places that really impact your day to day. And I would really love the opportunity to play a role in shaping that.
Mhm. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Kelley, for taking the time and for talking to us about your background and your campaign. I'm looking forward to seeing you out and about and supporting you in that way.
Thank you.
And thank you to our listeners for taking the time to learn more about Westerville's rich future and City Council candidate, Kelley Stocker. Before I let you go, we do want to clarify 2 points we discussed earlier in the conversation. The first is that the annual stipend for City Council members is actually $12,000 rather than $9,000. Along with that, the commitment extends beyond 2 meetings per month, but also includes 1 working session and then any additional meetings for boards or committees that they're appointed to. Lastly, if you are interested in attending the candidate night in October, it will be hosted by the City of Westerville Chamber of Commerce. So be sure to look for those details as we get closer to fall.